All right. Welcome, everyone. Happy Friday morning. My name is Shannon Bell, and I'm the Executive Director of Admissions for the Executive MBA programs here at UCLA. We are so happy to have you. This is actually our first kind of formal event that we are having for this new recruitment season. So all of you are the go-getters. You're ahead of the game. You're ahead of the curve. We're really happy to see you here today. So today, just to give you a brief rundown, because I know, some of you might have to jump at certain points or put us on mute for a second and take a call. The great news is today's session's recorded and we will send it out afterwards so you could watch it on demand if there's any parts that you missed. But we definitely encourage you to stay because there'll be opportunities for Q&A. But first, we're going to have a short presentation from Dean Gonzalo Freixes. He's our Dean of the Executive MBA and Fully Employed MBA programs here. So he'll provide that brief overview. We'll do a short Q&A with him, hopefully, if we have some time. And then we've got the main kind of guests here. We've got three incredible alumni panelists who are here to share their personal journeys, stories. I always think it's best to hear from them. And then there will definitely be time for Q&A for them. So please think of those questions that would be most beneficial for them to answer for you. Next, I want to just quickly introduce you. Hopefully, some of you have already met with us, or at least one of us have been in contact with. But this is our admissions staff. We are here to help you every step of the way. So please, hopefully you'll touch base with one of us or more, maybe all three of us during your journey. We make ourselves very accessible and look forward to meeting you one-on-one. Now, before we jump in, I just want to let you know that at UCLA Anderson here, we actually have two executive MBA programs that my team recruits for. One of them is our Los Angeles-based UCLA Anderson Executive MBA program. That's the one we're going to spend most of the time talking about today. But I always like to mention that we also have a really unique dual degree global executive MBA program in partnership with one of the top Asian business schools, National University of Singapore. So this is definitely a great option if you feel that you would benefit from having an Asia Pacific plus US focused curriculum and network. So definitely get in touch with us about that. And the reason we recruit for both of these is because both of these programs are looking for senior professionals who have a minimum of 8 years work experience. The average is around 15, and a minimum of 5 years in management, with the average being 9. Hopefully you've seen on our website, we do have that broader definition of management that also not only includes people management, but as well as if you oversee projects and oversee budgets. So both of these programs let you work while going to school and obviously give you classmates who come with really unique and highly experienced backgrounds for you to learn from as well. So I'm going to turn the floor over. As I said, Gonzalo Freixes is going to spend a lot of time more talking about our UCLA Los Angeles-based program. But he does oversee both of these programs. Dean Friexes, it's hard to give him a quick intro, so I'm just going to buzz through, but just know he does even more than I'm about to say. But he is an adjunct professor as well of tax law and international business here at Anderson. He's a lawyer by training, and he has his master's in accounting. You may have seen his video on our financing page about how you can maybe get some tax benefits through your tuition. So check that out. He's also an avid traveler. He leads many of our international business residentials with our current EMBA students, so you may get to travel with him. And he's extremely accessible and wants to work with the students and is very passionate about giving you the best experience. So I will pass it over to you, Dean Friexes.
Thank you, Shannon, and welcome everybody. It's great to see you, and we hope we will answer all of your questions. So let's dive in and just do a quick overview of some of the key aspects of the program. For our Los Angeles-based EMBA program, you may not know that we have three different schedule options. We have three different cohorts or sections so that you can attend classes bi-weekly, which means every other Friday, late afternoon and evening, usually from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. and then every other Saturday all day, with Sunday electives once a month when you start elective phase. If you can't come here every 2 weeks and you prefer a more flexible schedule, we have our monthly schedule where you come once a month for that period of time for the weekend. And then the remaining content is provided through videos and other online content through our Brew and Learn website. And you can kind of do your other coursework on your own time or schedule. And then we have our blended section, our newest section, which was implemented about 3 years ago. When COVID hit, we decided, well, this is actually, there's aspects of this that we should keep permanently, and we have. So like the biweekly, you meet every 2 weeks on Friday evening and Saturday all day. But then every other time you're on Zoom, receiving your course content synchronously, and then every other time you are live on campus. So both the monthly and blended sections only have to come to campus once a month. And then the remaining academic content is provided virtually, either asynchronously in the monthly option or synchronously, depending on what your best methodology is or method is for learning. Our UCLA and US Executive MBA program, this one is very different. It's a modular program that meets for, anywhere from 9 to 15 days, depending on what classes you take, because we have core required classes and then some elective options online and some elective options live. And it meets in different cities in Asia and in Los Angeles, twice in LA, twice in Singapore. So for those of you that have business interests in Asia, this might be a very helpful program. All right, let's go to the next slide. So at least half of what you're going to be learning in this program, you're not going to learn from us, from the faculty. You're going to learn from each other. And that's because we have the mini board model where you work with learning teams. The program actually forms these learning teams or mini boards for your first, for leadership foundations in your first quarter. And then we switch them up every couple of quarters so that you get to work with different people. And we try to make them very diverse and balanced. So you don't have 5 accountants or 5 physicians or 5 engineers on a team. You will meet people with different backgrounds. And that way, a lot of the work we do at Anderson is collaborative, and you'll have an opportunity to work with different groups within your class. Let's move on. In terms of the curriculum, it's really split into 2. We have what we call the core curriculum, and this is very common, the very common core that most executive or even regular MBA programs have, such things as marketing and economics and organizational behavior, statistics, which is really data and decisions, how you use statistical data in making business decisions, and strategy. And then you have the opportunity to take elective courses. Now, you're required to take 3 electives, and we embed some of these electives on Sundays once a month so that all 3 cohorts can take them. And those you see in yellow, those are some of our most popular electives that we offer embedded into the program itself, like negotiations, corporate finance, brand management, and then our suite of entrepreneurship classes. However, you also can take as many additional electives as you want with no additional tuition cost in our FEMBA or even our full-time program. Our FEMBA program, which is our fully employed MBA program, they offer classes Monday through Thursday nights. They also offer hybrid classes on weekends, and you can enroll in those courses as well and take those electives. And I'd say that most of our MBA students do take more than the 3 electives, probably more on an average of 6 to 8, if not more. And then by taking electives, you can pursue specializations in such areas as leadership, global management, entrepreneurship, finance, marketing, or technology within the MBA program, because we offer electives within MBA for all of these. You can also pursue electives where you'd have to take some courses in our FEMBA program in such areas as healthcare, entertainment, or real estate, for example. Some of these, like for example, our sustainability one may require you to take a day class here and there, but most of them do offer evening or weekend classes, so you can do that. And that's it for the program. And then the capstone, which you do in your last 2 quarters, puts together everything you've learned in your MBA degree and applies it through a real world type project. You can either pursue our SMR, Strategic Management Research, where you will work in a team on a consulting project for a real company or organization. It can be a big company like Cisco or IBM, or it can be a small nonprofit from the Los Angeles area, or an international project. And you work for 6 months doing a lot of secondary and primary research, and do a final presentation and written report at the end. And you apply all the frameworks you've learned in your core classes, plus your own personal experience. But if you want to come for your MBA to get an entrepreneurial experience, you can do our business creation program. Same research and requirements, but instead of working for an outside client company, you work with a team of your students to launch your own company. And you work with a dedicated faculty advisor. So this is a very experiential capstone program that Anderson has had for over 55 years that we believe is very important to further your application of what you've learned. Next slide, please. And of course, you're coming here to UCLA because I think of this, and that is some of the best faculty in the world. UCLA is always ranked within the top 10 of schools around the world in intellectual capital. And that's because of our faculty. We have some of the finest, most widely published, respected professors in the world, many of whom teach in the EMBA program. Most of the core classes that you will have will be taught by our research ladder faculty, who will incorporate some of the latest research that they do into their course content. And then in addition, you'll have access to this faculty outside of class. Many of them have online office hours, or will join you for lunch or dinner. And you'll have an opportunity to get to know them and explore the kinds of things that they do. But in addition, we have adjunct professors like myself and lecturers who come from industry who have expertise in particular fields. And they teach many of our electives, for example, where it's very specialized and you want that sort of practical specialized training. This balance is something that makes UCLA truly a world-class institution in that respect. Next slide, please. And something that I think Shannon alluded to that I enjoy because I helped create this back in 2007, and that is our global opportunities. UCLA, I'm sure, has the most diverse set of offerings of any program anywhere in terms of your ability to learn about regions of the world and how they conduct business there. We have 3 basic options that you can participate in. All of you will participate in our international business residency. So 1-week program where you take some pre-classes at UCLA, and then you go in country with your classmates to learn about how business is done in that region. I just came back about a month ago after taking a group of 45 of our EMBAs to Sydney and Melbourne in Australia. And in last year, I took a similar group to Dubai and Abu Dhabi to give you an example. And so you have a list there of many of the countries that we go to. In addition to that, you have what we call global immersions. Our Center for Global Management offers about 6 to 8 global immersions each year during the breaks. That is in summer, in December after classes are done, and then in March during spring break, where again, you take pre-classes, you go in country, and these classes are full-time MBA, part-time MBA, executive MBA students, and UCLA and US students. So you get to know a broader Anderson community of students and have a variety of countries. I think our record holder did 5 of these international programs while they were here doing their EMBA. And then finally, in addition to this, next slide, please, you've got our international exchanges. We created back in 2007 the first in the world EMBA exchange programs. We know that you work and you can't take a quarter or semester off to go somewhere to study, but hopefully you can take 1 week off. And then you can go to one of these schools like London Business School or HEC in Paris or INSPIR in Brazil and study with their EMBA students in English, taking electives that they offer to their students in a 1 week format. And then in August, when you can opt to take some elective classes here at UCLA, Executive MBA students from all these schools will come and join you in your classes, and you get to expand your network. So our global offerings are really something that that is a strength of the school, and we hope that you will take advantage of. So there's the classroom, there's these global programs, but then there's you and your own development as a leader in terms of how to manage people, how to work effectively in teams, and how to advance your own career goals. And that's where our Executive MBA Career and Leadership Development program and team comes in. You will work with dedicated certified executive coaches, both internal to Anderson with Tom Larson, our director of our CLD team, as well as with outside executive coaches that we provide that students can participate in getting further guidance from those. We have a strong leadership foundations curriculum. You spend the first week of the program learning from each other and learning about yourself and how you can develop as a leader. But then at the beginning of each quarter, you come early on that Friday and you get 5 additional hours of leadership curriculum with some of our top faculty and outside speakers. You can also set up meetings, appointments with our own internal executive coaches or our external executive coaches to help you find the fit that you want for your career. So, and then additionally and finally, we have an outside program outside of EMBA offered to all Anderson students called Leadership at Anderson, which provides additional mentors and coaches and teaches you how to work more effectively in teams. It's really a very robust piece of the program. Next slide, please. And then outside of the classroom and all this leadership, there's a whole other world. As I like to call it, there's a lot of candy in the candy store. We have 8 academic centers. So if you want to focus on real estate or entertainment and sports management or technology or global programming, it's entrepreneurship. We have research centers that provide resources and you can work with. We have an accelerator on campus for those of you that want to participate and launch your own business. And then we have 50 student clubs and both affinity clubs, as well as professional clubs, as well as some social clubs. If you like to go surfing, for example, and you could participate and join those clubs and really get to know your fellow Anderson community. It's just a great, very collaborative, very friendly. We're not high stress, competitive at all. All right, next slide. So that's all I have. I tried to go through this as quickly as possible to allow time for you to do some questions before we see our alumni panel. I can stay on and then I'll turn things back over to Shannon so she can go over our application deadlines.
Yes, and because Dean Friexes he has to go to a very important meeting where they're continuing to talk with leadership about the innovation of the program and the school. I am going to just skip to the Q&A for just Dean Friexes, and then I'll get into a little bit about the application. So please, anybody feel free to raise your hand or put something into the chat. We'd love to hear what questions you have.
Don't be shy. Yeah, or is there any questions about, the program, the classes? Because I've been teaching here for more than 32 years, so I also wear a professor hat as well as a dean hat.
I do have a question. Yeah. Hi, hello.
Hi.
Would all the available classes, how soon would we see all the different options? Like, are classes being released like a whole, calendar year, just so for planning purposes and things like that?
There is a general outline of all the classes that are going to be offered during the year. And then, you can kind of plan ahead. And then we also encourage you to meet with Michael Fontanez, who's our executive director, and with your dedicated program manager. Each of those cohorts that I mentioned has a dedicated program manager who's your first point of contact, whenever you have questions. And, you can kind of work with them and with our career team to say, okay, I want to pursue a career in real estate and I would like to take some of the real estate courses. When are those going to be offered? And then we can sort of, customize things a little bit for you. But you will have those for the academic year. And you'll see the schedule. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Great. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Anyone else? Everyone's just so well prepared. I think that's it. Everyone's watched our webinars, got on the website.
I do have a question, Jen.
Yes, please, Justin.
Yeah. Hey, Dean Friexes. I'm
Hi,
curious
Justin.
actually about, how's it going? I'm actually curious about what you mentioned or what Shannon mentioned about the innovation of the program moving forward in the future.
Yeah.
What are the things that you're excited about?
Oh my goodness. Well, our dean and we've been undergoing a strategic planning process for the last almost 2 years, where we're looking ahead the next 3 to 5 years and what we can do to improve the overall program, and just everything about the school and what we're doing. And there's a lot that's happening in that respect. One of it is a big focus on leadership and expanding that across the school. EMBA already has a robust leadership curriculum, but we are making some changes even in that are going to incorporate some more of our research faculty from our management and organizations area that do research in the field of leadership and, diversity and inclusion and, working effectively in teams and all of that. So bringing that more to you. So that excites me. And then, so we're having a big meeting today, 27 leaders from across the school to start talking about the implementation of the strategic plan, where we're going to focus on 2 things as a school, sort of the technical preparation to make sure our students understand, how data is used and how to analyze data and to get the technical and industry skills necessary, as well as the leadership component in terms of we've for example, our new leadership week now is foundations in inclusive leadership. So those are some of the cool things that are happening that I'm excited about in the program. The fact that the school and we're going to try to introduce classes and specializations and expand our offerings in such areas as healthcare and clean tech, for example, and entertainment and media. So those are all exciting things because we have growing numbers of students from those fields.
Great. And there is a question here from, go ahead. Juliana, I think, Juliana, is that you?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, you ask, because I know I can definitely address Michelle's too. So Juliana, please go ahead.
Thank you.
And yeah.
Hi, Professor. My question is about the staff, because you mentioned that some are research and some have industry experience. Is there a ratio of what we have access to at the core classes versus the electives?
Well, I would say that your core classes are going to be taught probably 90% or more by research faculty, because that's where you're going to learn a lot of the theoretical frameworks and all of that. And of course, there's a heavy dosage of application, right? Because you'll be doing business cases and simulations and things like that. And then in our electives, I would say it's probably 50-50 core faculty and adjuncts and lecturers. For example, I teach classes in tax and real estate, along with my global classes, because I have, a law degree, a master's in tax, and those are my specialty fields based on my industry experience. And so that's, that's sort of how the program is laid out to answer your question. But yeah, you will have an opportunity. But occasionally we will have an adjunct or a lecturer like Professor John Ullman, typically will teach one of our organizational behavior core classes, and he's a lecturer, but he's, got this vast industry experience, writes books, and, just a great professor to have. So you'll get both.
Excellent. Thank you.
Hi, and this is Amanda. Sorry, guys, I'm kind of in and out of this call. I'm not sure if this was addressed, but so I work in the digital technology field.
Yeah.
And right now there's a huge push with sustainability, as we know, especially here in California, but globally. Do we know, I don't know if you've mentioned this, I know that I might have seen one of the focuses be in technology, but are there courses that are also focused on the environment and sustainability and the whole kind of carbon neutral push that we can also take? Are there electives in that sense?
There are electives not embedded within EMBA because we probably don't have a critical mass of people to take it, but we do offer them through our FEMBA program. And so you would have some courses available in that. Additionally, something you can do while you're here, depending on whether you're local, right? Because if you live out of the area, it might be more difficult. You can also take classes in those fields. You're at UCLA. You can go take a class through our environmental center in that, or you can take classes at the School of Public Health or Public Affairs. You can take other classes on the UCLA campus. And more programs are offering elective online offerings. In fact, we are offering now 5 to 7 fully online electives during the week at night, every quarter. So that's great for EMBAs that live out of the area or for FEMBAs that live out of the area.
Thank you.
Sure. And clean tech is going to be a focus of the school. So we don't have a lot of classes, although we have a few, but expect more as we launch more into this field.
Definitely. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just add that I think a lot of these really current hot button kind of items, Amanda, you're talking about are centers we have 8 centers across various industries, technology being one of them. They really program a lot of current speakers to come in and talk on current issues. And so I know, for example, Terry Kramer, who runs our Easton Center of Technology, would love to hear from you and hear you say, I'd love to have someone come in and speak on this topic. I know they're very quick and receptive to things like that.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm interested in pursuing the EMBA with UCLA is knowing of the flexibility and being able to say here in the professional world, working in digital transformation for the past decade plus, there is a huge push with sustainability. And, it definitely gives me a competitive advantage being able to talk about it in my business now and being able to potentially hear from some speakers in that field while I attend UCLA would be a huge benefit.
And Amanda, a lot of us are incorporating more ESG type things into our standard classes. For example, when I took the group to Australia, we looked at the mining industry and I pulled a business case that dealt with a company that was implementing some technology to do more sustainable mining.
That's awesome.
So that, it doesn't have to be a dedicated class. It can be incorporated because we're trying to measure ESG across all of the classes and making sure that that's incorporated. Irene,
that's great.
Sure. Irene, you have a question?
Yeah. Hi. Nice to meet you guys. I was just wondering, what percentage of the capstone project where students build out a business plan, what percentage of those actually end up becoming a real business? Do you know that offhand?
I do. 50% over the last few years, 50% across all the MBA programs, including EMBA. 50% of those businesses have actually launched, and most of whom have gotten funding. Because as you might imagine, we have quite an infrastructure here with the entrepreneurial community and the venture capital community. So it's actually that's a pretty good rate.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, no, it's people get serious about it, and you don't have to have like every member of your team be a founder in the business. It might be that you have this great idea that you want to found this business, and there's some classmates that want to, help you by, working with you while you're here to help you launch that and analyze the market. So it's it's a strength of the program. It really is.
And then
Gonzalo, go ahead.
Sorry. And when you mentioned funding, is that funding from UCLA or is that?
No, outside private funding.
Got it. Got it. Okay.
Gonzalo, I know you do have to go in a minute. I wanted Michelle and Mark, I'm definitely going to get to your questions because I know I can answer those, but maybe Andre had a question, Gonzalo, in the chat.
Yeah, I'll take one more and I apologize.
Yeah, no, that's problem.
Sure.
Asking about digital asset technology is a very new industry. Do you foresee having any classes oriented towards fintech and digital asset space?
Well, we definitely have classes with fintech. And I mean, there's a lot happening. There's a lot of disruption that technology has brought to that field. So there definitely are courses that exist in dealing with that. That some of our faculty, both our research faculty, as well as we bring some outside experts like Jason Liana, who teaches in the program, that incorporates some of that into their advanced electives. And so, yes, the answer is yes. And the answer is we're pushing more in those directions, of course, right? Because that's what's happening in society. And so we're adapting. And that's where the adjuncts and lecturers with industry expertise can really do that. And we also have conferences and speakers and things that come in to talk about these things. So.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. I know definitely we'll take that question also, Andre, for our panelists too, when we get to them, because I think they can speak to kind of the more where they got sometimes even that more really current stuff, like especially around digital assets and things like that. Well, Dean Friexes, go have a wonderful meeting, and I'm going to
Thank you, everybody.
on.
I hope to see you on campus soon, and thanks so much. Take care.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Definitely want to get, Michelle, to your question, and then definitely Mark yours as well when I go back over kind of the application requirements. So Michelle, you asked about whether or not you can kind of flex between the different schedule options, the bi-weekly, blended, and monthly. So the thing is that we do ask you at the beginning of the program, and you don't actually have to choose your section until you enroll in the program. So when you apply, if you're not sure yet and you're still thinking about it, don't let that hold you up from applying. You're going to list in the application what you think your preference is, but you won't officially give that what you actually were saying that you want to enroll in as your first choice until you actually enroll in the program. We do ask you make a 2-quarter commitment to one of your sections, because that is your mini board study team. So the study team that we talked about that uses the mini board model is for 2 quarters at a time. And we really don't like to disrupt that. And trust me, you won't want to disrupt that. However, if come after the 2nd quarter, after the 4th, you're seeing that you want to flex into another schedule and there's room in that, we absolutely would be happy to accommodate. And I do want to call out that just because you're in a certain section or schedule option doesn't mean you can't come to campus more. That's just for those core classes. So for your electives, again, you could come to class, campus weekly. You could take some of the online classes on a weekly basis. Definitely the conferences and workshops and speaker series bring you to campus. So I've had some students say they choose one that maybe only has a once a month on campus because they want that flexibility to come to campus other times during the month. So that's how that process works. And then Mark, you asked about the interview process. So let's go back quickly to the deadlines and then the application, and I'll address that there and then continue to get to any questions. So yeah. I think maybe someone needs to mute, or was there a question? Okay. So the application deadlines, basically, we are on a rolling basis. So our application is open now, and it really stays open till about May. So we're always open from August to May, and we have fall start. So all of our programs have a fall start every year, late August, early September. But we put deadlines in place because society and the way our brains work, people like deadlines. So these are definitely when the applications are due, but again, we'll process as we get them. And we have a lot of different resources for you to pop in and ask questions. These director Q&As that I host on a weekly basis, a one-on-one phone call if you have something very specific that you want to discuss for your case. Even our students every other week do Q&As virtually, so you can pop into those. They offer in the weekend, in the evening, and then they offer lunchtime slots as well. And then we have a Connect with an Ambassador program. So we'll send you this afterwards, but there is 2 of the people actually who are on our panel today are ambassadors. And these are alumni and current students who sign up and say, we'd love to talk to prospects and share our story and answer questions. So take advantage of looking at that list and see if any of these people, resonate with your story and that you'd want to connect with one-on-one. And then class visits. So thank goodness the pandemic is, starting to move back behind us, and we can bring you back on campus to sit in on a class, have lunch with students. So we'll send you all these links as a follow-up as well. Irene, I see your hand. I'll get to you in just 1 minute for sure. After these deadlines. So then the UCLA and US application deadlines, it's a little earlier because that program ends or starts in May instead of in the fall. So if you do have interest in this program, make sure you get in touch with us again, same group of people, and we can walk you through kind of what this program is all about as well. Next slide. And Irene, while we're transitioning, did you have a question about the deadlines or ways to connect?
Yeah, so on the deadline, so you said it's based on a rolling basis. So if we start an application but miss a specific deadline, then would that application still be live, or would we need to start over?
No, absolutely. Yeah. And that's the whole point. So you don't, let's say you miss a deadline and you want to submit 5 days later. Yes, the application will stay open for the whole time. The only thing is that each year has its own application. So if you're not looking, this would be the one you'd be filling out now would be to start in fall 2023. If for some reason you're looking to start in fall 2024, which some of you might really be planning ahead, I just recommend don't start your application until August 1st of 23, but feel free to come to all of our events and engage with us for sure.
Understood. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And then Mark, this is where I'll definitely get to your question. So these are just kind of some of the application basics. We definitely have more information, much more in depth on our website, and we'll send you a follow-up. Quickly, though, we do not require the GMAT, GRE, or executive assessment. Our feeling is we were always using that when we did require it to understand your quantitative abilities. How prepared are you from a math standpoint for some of the MBA math that's in our program? We found that students much preferred taking a pre-MBA math class. So we designed our own free of cost, really prepares you for the math in our MBA program. Also, we do statistics workshops and Excel workshops before you get started. So that's how we've kind of made sure that all of our students who start, even if you haven't taken math for a few years, or maybe you haven't taken it since high school, then we know that you will be prepared and feel ready. We do ask for your transcripts. Upload your unofficial transcripts in the application. Official transcripts can actually come in after you submit your unofficial or after you submit your application. So don't stress about that if those are coming in after. 2 essay questions to help us get to know you, your resume for us to help understand your career journey. 2 recommendations we ask you to list. They don't actually have to write a formal letter. We send them a brief form. So you just give their email address and they fill out some information about you. We ask at least one of these, if not both, are either current or past supervisors or skip level supervisors as well. And then if you were educated outside the US and you don't have a degree in the United States, just check in with us and see if we may need the English proficiency exam. This is a requirement that comes from our UCLA graduate division, not necessarily from Anderson, but we'll work with you to try and see how we can accommodate and help you get that test if that's something that's needed. So then when it comes to the interview, Mark, to your question, if you get past the first round, basically after we review your application, then you are invited for an interview. So basically anybody who's admitted has had an interview, usually half an hour to 45 minutes on Zoom. We may start bringing those back in person if you come for a class visit or an event or something like that. But historically now people find them easier on Zoom, just to help us get to know you and ask any further questions about your candidacy. So I am going to pause there for questions because I really want to, okay, Sydney, quick question before we get into the panel for sure. Yes, Sydney.
Hi. So my question is, for the FEMBA program, is a GMAT GRE required, or is it just for the Executive MBA that it's waived?
So for the FEMBA program, it likely will be. If you have 8 years of experience or more, you can take the executive assessment for them. But if you're, for some reason, under 8 years of experience, then they will require the GMAT or GRE. So definitely, go ahead and connect with them on your background to check on that if you're interested in that program.
Okay, thank you.
And Irene, before we get into the panelists?
Yeah, just a quick question on the interviews. Is it you guys that conduct the interviews, or is it with current faculty?
It's us. So you usually try and meet with an admissions staff member that you haven't already talked to. So if you did like one of my Q&As or spoke with me, then you would meet with like Christina. And we have other people who are senior people within the staff who also meet with you as well.
Got it. Thank you.
Very conversational. All right, let's jump right in. And I see some questions coming in through the chat. We'll address some of them. And then, of course, please start thinking about your questions for the panelists today as well. So thank you so much. I can't wait to see Yana, Jason, and Tim here today. Basically, the way we're going to kind of walk through this is each one of them is going to just share with you for about 5 to 10 minutes, just their own personal journey and kind of why they decided to get an MBA, how they, picked Anderson and settled on that, and then what were kind of some of their key learning outcomes from the program and biggest takeaways. So I am going to hand the floor over to each of them. And then again, please think of your questions because we'll turn it right over to you afterwards. This is a great opportunity to connect with each of them. So Yana, why don't you take it away?
Thank you, Shannon, for inviting me to the session, and very nice to meet everybody. I'm Yana Potashnik, class of EMBA 2022, was in the blended program. I'm currently Director of User Research and Strategy at Maven Clinic, which is a health tech startup. My goal for pursuing the MBA and it was actually talking to admissions folks at UCLA that really helped me figure out that the right place for me is actually the Executive MBA. Is I've had 17 years in high tech. During my MBA, worked at Amazon, so I was very much looking for a place where that's going to give me the experience to get into the startups and figure out what it takes to be a founder. And so the mini boards, the business creation option really resonated. I am based in San Francisco Bay Area. And so there's definitely quite a few business schools in the area that I was also considering. But for me, it was very much the importance of diversity of thought. As I mentioned, I'm already in technology. So being able to talk to somebody that's also in tech is very easy through my personal network. So I was really looking to learn from people who are in healthcare and in entertainment industry. And in UCLA, we had a really amazing cohort that was coming from like veterans, and you get such diversity of thought. And I love the mini boards. Shannon, I have no idea how you guys do this, but it's amazing because our mini board every time was really like people who are incredible people who bring so much to the class experience that I learned a ton from, and have been both the academic and the emotional support through the journey. In terms of balancing things out, a little bit about myself. I'm also a mom of 2. So for me, the blended was just kind of that perfect experience where I could be on campus. I still had the commitment that I know this is when I'm going to be studying and being in classes, but could still balance that personal aspect. Shannon, anything else you want to make sure I like this was top of mind, may have missed some of the questions that you had for me.
Yeah, maybe just one thing would be interesting, because I know you did a career, you did make a move, within the program. And so just kind of curious, maybe from a career standpoint, how was this helpful in helping you reach that goal?
So I think right away, my first quarter, I took the negotiations elective, and part of that elective, you gotta, like your final project, you have to have a real negotiation. So out of that, I negotiated a promotion and while I was at Amazon, and it was actually some of the discussions with Tom Larson, and we had kind of group sessions where we reviewed each other's resumes that really kind of pushed me to pursue my passion of switching from being an entrepreneur to entrepreneur, and pursuing the startup world. So during my MBA journey, ended up being promoted, ended up switching to a different role within Amazon, and then decided to kind of go, I'm doing the BCO, I'm really enjoying it. Like now I want to see what the life in startups really is like. So I ended up switching into both startup and healthcare.
Awesome, Yana. Yeah, I love, that's one thing I hear. I feel I hear a lot from students is they get inspired to just like follow their dreams. So it's not just about, kind of chasing higher salary and things like that, but really getting focused on what they want, what they're passionate about, and then getting to live that. So that's awesome. Well, thank you, Yana. We'll bring you back definitely for the broader Q&A session. Let's move over. Jason, would love to hear your story as well. We'll get you spotlighted here. Oh, look at you in your UCLA Anderson jacket. Love it. Really sporting it today.
Yeah, I had to break this out of the closet. Although it's like just a little bit too warm for it, but it's okay. We'll get there. Fall is coming. It's great to meet everyone virtually and join this conversation today. Jason Crockett, class of 2022. So just finished. Jan, it's good to see you again. I know it's only been a couple months, but congratulations on the new role. So I currently work at Snap Inc., the parent company of Snapchat, overseeing their local public policy and supporting their state public policy and government affairs work. My background is a bit strange, to be perfectly honest. I've bounced around. I started right out of undergrad working in asset management, and had this kind of weird epiphany that I wanted to do something different with my life. And so I moved to Los Angeles and was working in the nonprofit sector for a number of years, both in direct service and as a financial consultant to nonprofit organizations. And it was around that time that I started to get more interested in politics at the local level. And so with the new mayoral administration starting in 2013 under Mayor Garcetti, I started to look for opportunities to figure out how I could get my foot in the door in the local political scene, and ended up working for the mayor for a number of years on our economic development team. And through that work, my primary function was being the kind of the first person that could engage with the business community in Los Angeles. And my focus was tech and biotech. I also supported our tax policy, and eventually started supporting our community business work. And so from that, I got to work very closely with a lot of private sector stakeholders throughout the greater LA area, and just began to gain a deeper appreciation for the role that the private sector played, and the impact that it can have both as a job creator, as an innovator, how it helps to define a region in many ways. When you think of Los Angeles, you think obviously of entertainment, and this was a couple years ago now, but the tech scene was still really defining itself in a lot of ways. And so I began to think about what I wanted to do after my time at the mayor's office was done. And the thing about politics is you have almost kind of a natural end date. Whenever you're the elected you work for is out of office, you're kind of out of a job. So I was in some ways pushed or forced to really take that consideration seriously, and be very timely in thinking about what I want to do. And I felt like I had a background in finance several years ago, but having the MBA would make me a really compelling candidate. And, just a little bit of background, I actually cycled through a litany of other graduate degrees for consideration. I looked at going to law school. I looked at, I actually took the LSAT and was applying, and I looked at getting my MPP as well over the past 10 years. And at the end of the day, the MBA just felt like it was the degree that would allow me the greatest versatility in my career. And that's the one thing that I think was almost like a constant in my career, is that I had gone from nonprofit to nonprofit consulting to now the public sector, and was looking at the private sector. And so, it makes me a little nervous because it feels like I never know what's happening next, but it's also a bit exciting. And I felt like the MBA would probably complement that journey, and help me ensure that whatever it was that I looked to pursue next, I would have both the skill set as well as the resume to be successful, and hopefully to not just move laterally, but move up. So a little bit after starting my UCLA journey at Anderson, I actually left the mayor's office and joined Snap Inc. And it's interesting because some of the classes that I didn't think I would enjoy ended up being some of the most useful classes, both to me personally as well as professionally. I speak a lot for, the work that I do, both publicly and internally. And so I ended up taking a leadership communications class, really because I was curious, and a couple of my friends were saying it's a good class, but I was on the fence. And then when I got in there, I realized this is exactly what I needed. This has been perfect because, while I'm comfortable at speaking publicly in the public policy arena, doing it in the private sector can be a little bit different. And this has given me so much more clarity in how you structure your arguments. And similarly with Yana, I got so much out of the negotiations class. And I, assumed that I was a pretty decent negotiator, and man, I just leveled up in a big way, I think. So I have to say, thank you. It's been just, very fortuitous that the timing has worked out, that the EMBA experience has complemented kind of my own career change and shift into the private sector. It's been very helpful as well as I'm moving into kind of, an expanded role, supporting some of our more innovative work at Snap, which is really exciting. So not just our traditional policy and legislative work, but also working with cities and counties and states and how they view themselves as stakeholders and users of technology like Snapchat. So I'm grateful for UCLA for a number of reasons. I'm sure we're going to get into this more, but I looked at a couple of other schools. I won't say any names. I knew I wanted to stay in Los Angeles, and I'm just someone who wanted to kind of indulge in the academic experience and get the network. And I don't think that there's a better school, certainly not in Los Angeles. And I would argue, all of California has some great schools. UCLA is right at the top when it comes to offering such a both deep and broad academic opportunity. If you look at, and this is going to surprise a lot of people, if you're interested in innovation, there's really not a better school than UCLA. UCLA has time and time again, I think going back to like 2017, had the largest number of successful companies leaving its university, successful entrepreneurial companies leaving the university. So They do a great job of really supporting entrepreneurs and surrounding entrepreneurs with the resources that they need to be successful, including access to capital, including a lot of the soft skills. The BCO program was another really strong selling point for me as someone who had interest in learning more in entrepreneurship, but I myself didn't have an idea that I was super hooked to. I just wanted to learn more about kind of the entrepreneurial journey. And so I was able to connect with a great entrepreneur and innovator in our class and join her project. And through that, like, just learn step by step what it takes to really develop, design a business model, and how you think about execution, go-to-market strategy. And then the last thing I'll say is that the traditional academic resources that UCLA brings to the table, both, I would say it's network, it's alumni based, but also the faculty, they're so accessible, they're so willing to take the time and their personal time to help you in your efforts and in your ambitions. And so that's something that I really appreciate. And that's a reputation that UCLA had, that I had heard from a number of alumni and other folks, is that the faculty really want to see you succeed and they will make themselves available to help support that. So I'm not sure, Shannon, if there's anything else that I should touch on, but I want to make sure we give some time to Tim as well.
That was great, Jason. Thank you for that overview. And like people are saying in the chat, really helpful to hear both of your stories. So thank you for that. And again, we'll bring you back for the broader Q&A. Tim, why don't again you share your unique story?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on here, Shannon. And I think for the folks out there, you kind of witnessed Jason and Yana, their classmates. You know, there's a level of connection that isn't fabricated, right? There's a genuine support that's there. And that's certainly one of the things that UCLA will drag out of you, even if you're not an extrovert. And they do a great job with that. So let me just back up a little bit. My name is Tim Arnold. I was an EMBA 21 monthly. I only lived 35 miles from school, but between 4 kids and lots of travel, the monthly program fit what I was doing. And there was times where it was a little bit slower and I wish I could be on campus, but like Shannon said, it's so critical that you give those 2 quarters so you are able to work with the program, with the teams that you have. And I wouldn't change it. So I started my journey as an entrepreneur while I was still in high school, didn't even know what it was, and stumbled into a sweat equity deal with a local retail and wholesale company. And after finishing high school, just went and did some night school at the local community college to pretty much just keep my mom happy. School was really important to her. So I was playing, in business and still going through. And after a couple of years, sold the business, went to UCSB, got an accounting economics degree, and it was time for me to get a real job that I didn't have to try to explain to everybody. So I got my Series 7 in '63 and went into financial advising. Enjoyed that for a couple of years, but had that itch to get back out and build. And so I went ahead and resigned from a good job, good position, something I was a young person that should have had it, got this great opportunity, but I wasn't as fulfilled as I wanted to be. So I jumped out, started working with an early e-com company. And again, there's not a lot of books. This was early 2000s, and just kind of blindly feeling a way around, but loved everything about that, always building, creating, failing, analyzing, and do it again. It's like Groundhog's Day, but it was fun. And after a couple of years with this e-com company, a buddy had called from high school and said, "Hey, you're the business guy. I want to start a denim company. So, okay, sure. Why not? I know nothing about it, but it sounds like we can build something together." So I spun out, built a denim company, Create Denim, sold it a couple of years later. I was handling all the accounting, operations, sales, and they were handling, my partners handling all the creative work, which is great because I got a free ride on all this great stuff they were doing, and I was kind of doing the administrative side. And I wasn't really sure what I was going to do next. I had a few bucks in my pocket, always been a saver, so I had the option to dive into different things. And I took a short-term job as a CFO that turned into 7 years. And my plan was to do a little bit of CFO work and then go back and get my MBA so I can kind of finish growing and doing some academic learning. And that didn't happen. So 7 years later, I kind of got that itch again. I started another company. This time I just bootstrapped it, didn't take any outside money, a lot of expensive debt, hard money lending, things like that. Again, just there's so many ways I could have done everything better, especially after going through school. But just feeling my way around, building a company, paying the people based on their performance, not based on the company's performance. And I had the opportunity to surround myself with really great people. And the folks that I had met and I admired over the last 15, 20 years were working side by side. But I found as the company was growing, we were servicing companies like T-Mobile, Best Buys, a lot of really, really big clients. It was fun, but I put myself out of my job. I had all these great people that were really doing all of the work, and I was handling a lot of the sales. So I started getting into angel investing. And again, finding myself kind of a little bit lost, like what to do next. The company's doing well, the employees are happy, everything's going good. And with angel investing, it was good. It was kind of that building fire that was there, but I still had a company that I owned to run. And on a chance encounter coming back from a midnight New York trip, sat next to somebody who was a guest lecturer at Anderson and said, "Hey, have you ever thought about going to MBA, getting your MBA?" And so all of a sudden I remembered all the way back a decade ago, I hit the pause button on that. And why? Like, that sounds perfect. I want to get out of my comfort zone. I've been so busy building that my head was down, and I didn't really have a lot of folks that I was looking up to or that I really admired. And I knew it was a big fish, small pond, super dangerous to be in. So I said, why not? Let's go see. Let's see what this is. So I landed and applied, and it was in the third wave there. So it was, hey, you better hurry up. So I just scrambled and got it in and got accepted, and then thought, uh-oh, maybe I don't fit in here. I'm kind of the entrepreneur. I'm not the academic person. As I kind of mentioned, there are people from all over the place. And sit next to a Navy SEAL, a neurosurgeon, and somebody running, San Francisco's power grid, you feel about this big, realizing, man, I haven't done anything significant with my life, but this is great. This is where I want to be. And not running into anybody with similar backgrounds. There's not any kind of confirmation bias or groupthink that's there with the programs or the teams that they put together. And I found myself just so thrilled, and also feeling foolish. I didn't do this 10 years ago when I thought about it, but it wasn't the right time, right place. So looking to take advantage of everything that I could, I took a lot of electives and explored a lot of different places. And why UCLA? Hands down, it was the staff, the admissions staff. There wasn't a rubric where they just try to put you in. It really is trying to find out if you're a good fit for their program and their program is a good fit for you. And it was individualized. A couple of other local schools out here, it felt like just send it in. We're going to put you in. The machine's going to go doop, 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 and give you a score, and that's you as a human. And that was not the case at all with the admissions staff. Also with alumni that I reached out to. Hey, I'm interested in the school. And folks who got back and just thinking, okay, is this real? Can you really have this, hundreds of good people like this? Yes, they can. It's absolutely phenomenal. And that was hands down. I withdrew all my other applications after spending a little bit of time with the Anderson staff and some of the practitioners and alumni. And I knew without fail, this is where I was going. So now I only have one application in. So again, I'm all in. There's something about this I just love doing to myself, but it's where I belonged. And if I didn't get in, I was going to wait and apply again. So I would say the biggest things, you can break it down, right? Everybody's quantitative at first. What do I get from it? So let's put that to the back, because that doesn't matter in what you actually get. The qualitative value that comes out of this, the people who you meet, the friends, the colleagues, the folks that you work with in the groups are, at best, you cross paths with them in the airport. Other than that, they're doing different things, different lives, different careers, different stages without kids, traveling, not traveling. And you really do get to build some valuable friendships. And then there's nothing better than being able to work with these folks afterwards, right? Just before this call, two of my 21s, hey, can you jump in? We're talking to somebody, they're raising some money. Can you give some advice on a safe versus a convertible note? Oh yeah, and it's exciting. It doesn't feel like work anymore. This stuff is great. To Amanda's question earlier, she was asking about learning about different things in sustainability and some of the newer initiatives. You'll find somebody who's got a career 10, 15 years long in that. So it's not just the practitioners, the academic professors, it's also your classmates that bring tremendous amount of context and insight to your current challenges or the things you're looking to learn from, and their whole network that expands outside of that. Quantitatively, sold a company. It unlocked a world that was around me that I couldn't see. I had blinders on because I didn't know how venture capital really worked and private equity worked and what else you could do with angel investing and advising and how to give back. So, I mean, should have done it sooner. I have no regrets on what I did when I didn't, but I would say if you're thinking about it right now, I'm excited for every single one of you, because one thing that they'll tell you is it's going to be you 2.0, and they're not kidding. It sounds like it's impossible again. Nope, they put their cohorts together. They have phenomenal people, and they do help you unlock yourself. You're not drinking the Kool-Aid and everybody's following the same kind of rhetoric. No, it is, here's some systematic information, and it's a really good program that helps you make it personal and do what you're looking to do for your friends, your family, anything in your world. So, and I'll drop my link here for LinkedIn in the chat if anybody wants to follow up. I'm happy to share anything, pros and cons. We went through part of COVID, not COVID, program didn't change. The school is phenomenal.
Thanks so much, Tim. Wonderful, wonderful to hear. As I said, I can say all day long, but I always tell people you got to talk to an alumni or a student, because they're going to always tell you better than me. I just repeat your stories. So thank you all for sharing. So now let's hear Q&A. Please, anyone raise your hand or put it in the chat. Definitely want to hear your specific questions. Obviously you have 3 people here who are excited to support you.
Hi, I'm Jasmine. I have a question. Have any of you leveraged any of the resources post-graduation?
Yeah, can you expand on it a little bit more? Would it be professors, connections, network, alumni?
All of the above, and how so?
Yes. And part of that is also staying involved. You know, we're here, but there's the school, the program, the reputation that you got into, you know, that you're looking at here. It requires consistent involvement. So you're looking out for other people, but also as you come into the program, anywhere you go, it's important to say where you want to go, not who you were, so you don't typecast yourself. But hey, as I'm going through this, I'm looking to do this type of program. And you'll have, you know, professors and other students and advisors looking out. If it's investing, if it's a new job, there's a great alumni network on the back end. And there's an infinite amount of ways that you can stay connected to the school.
Yeah, I would just add, totally. So having just graduated this past spring, our class, I think, was really, really like yearning for a continuation of the connection that we got for really, I mean, in person, I think the spring quarter, and we were in person for a little bit in the fall quarter. So essentially, you know, the pandemic kind of suppressed our ability to meet up in person as frequently. So from the social aspect, like we've all been hanging out a bunch. But professionally, I am working with 2 startups that are founded by alumni from my class. And they reached out or had an opening and thought I may be a good fit to help support them at the various earliest of stages. So, you know, we'll see where that goes. If nothing comes from that, I will at least be able to say I have kind of additional insight and experience on the entrepreneurial journey. But, you know, sincerely, who knows? I think the alumni in your class, I mean, I don't know, Tim, if you had the same experience, and Yana, I don't want to speak for you, but even with the pandemic, and even though so much of it was virtual for us, we really did develop a pretty strong bond. The folks from my first study group, we're like really, really close friends. You know, some of them have coached me through a couple of issues professionally, and or like, you know, some personal stuff, even like, how do I deal with, you know, balancing some of these life goals that I have with my career, and just being able to glean from their experience has been invaluable. So short answer, yes.
So echoing what Jason said, I think the class of 2022 were, very eager to spend that social time together. And so in Bay Area, we've had quite a few meetups, but what I also appreciate and that I've been participating in is our larger UCLA Anderson alumni community. So in Bay Area, we have Anderson Pitch. And so it's different alumni getting together, sharing their startup pitch ideas and kind of doing the full 15-minute pitch with the presentation. And so it's been really great to get exposure to different types of ideas that I normally don't get to see, but also meeting other alums from different classes, the MBAs, the FEMBA, other EMBAs throughout the years, and it's it's amazing kind of the value system and the type of amazing people that Anderson is able to bring together, and you get to really experience that when you meet other alums, kind of not from your particular class, and just kind of see that that consistency.
Thank you for sharing.
Awesome. Who else?
I have a question.
Yeah.
First and foremost, thank you. This has been an amazing panel to hear each of your experiences, your journey, both professionally and personally. It's really exciting to hear, coming in. And my question to you guys is there anything you would do differently, right? We're going in possibly 23, 24. Any recommendations, anything you do more of, less of? What's some advice or guidance on that?
I think the one thing I touched on earlier is make sure people know where you want to go. We land and we kind of just start spitting out our CV and our application. And then you realize, hold on, I don't want to keep doing what I was doing. I'm here to do something different to unlock. And so anybody who's coming in, that's number one piece of advice, is where are you going so everybody around you can help you get there.
I think there's one piece of advice that may help you regardless of where you go. Don't get scared off of the hard classes. There's one class in particular that I'm kicking myself that I didn't take, and it was only available in this block of time. And in my mind, I was just like, I'm really busy right now. And the idea of taking this class right now is stressing me out. I'll probably have another opportunity to take it later. And it didn't, or I just wasn't able to take it. And I really, really regret that. I think, academics matter and you should definitely try. But you're not necessarily here no one's going to ask you what your GPA was, essentially. So the experience of being able to soak up that knowledge is more important than worrying about if you absolutely crush the class, if you're that type of person who wants to get an A and everything. So that'd be my one piece of advice.
So my advice is embrace the classes that are pushing you outside of your comfort zone. My background was nothing to do with accounting or finance, but taking electives that kind of put you into that mindset that pushes you to kind of expand your skill set. So kind of both exploring things that is going to be relevant. For me, that was marketing and entrepreneurship, but also taking classes that are pushing me outside of my comfort zone. So I would kind of recommend both kind of understanding what you electives and classes that you want to be taking that are gonna can expand what you want to be doing, but also something that's gonna push you outside of that comfort zone.
Thank you, guys.
Barton?
Yes, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for being here. Quick question. If I'm understanding correctly, everybody seems to have had a bit of a break from undergrad into their graduate program. Can you just talk a little bit about your experience in transitioning back into that student mentality and sort of how you balance your professional life, personal life, and then becoming a student again?
I would say the hardest part was figuring out how you were going to take notes and study, because it's like going into a time machine. And for me, it was, I think, 18 years. And abandoning, whether I'm doing it on an iPad, notes, Notable, whatever, jumping around. That was very, very tricky to balance, and just knowing when to give that up. And once you kind of get back in the rhythm, it takes a little while, but figuring out what works for you, what works for your travel schedule. It's great to get advice from other folks, but that's very individualized, because it's quite a bit of information that you're injecting every single day, every hour. So figuring out like what that ingestion engine is for you is important, and pulling the ripcord if it's not working and try something different.
So for me, I'm a double Bruin with a little bit of husking in the middle. So I did my undergrad at UCLA, did my first master's up at University of Washington when I was in my mid-20s. So that was pre-kids, it was great. So this was really about kind of trying to get back into the swing of things, and I think especially on the weekends when we're with Blended, you're doing the classes on Zoom, and it's just kind of helping the kids understand of I'm in the classroom, don't barge in. But in reality, I'm sure my classmates have heard my kids come in with different questions, and my pet's kind of running into the Zoom conversations. And I think it was very much about kind of creating that structure for myself of this is where I'm going to study. This is my kind of dedicated time. You dedicate time to your work, making sure you're blocking that out, and your family understands that, it's a family commitment. It's not just, you're doing this by yourself. If you have family and kids, it's a commitment that they're all supporting you through.
Yeah, ditto what both Tim and Yana said. I think being intentional about your time and redeveloping those study habits, particularly carving out the time and dedicating it to committing to doing homework or case studies and preparation. This isn't necessarily answering your question, Mark, but you called out kind of the time, the gap in between undergrad and doing this program. And I think that's consistent across everyone that's accepted into the EMBA program. And I think it's one of the most valuable assets, because the folks in your class, some of them actually lived the case studies that you're going through, and they bring that expertise into the class. And I just valued so much. It's so much different than having to read on paper, but hearing it from your peer who was there. We had this whole case study on Netflix, and someone has I was there, and here's how that felt. Here's kind of what we went through and our thinking at the time. Same with Disney. I mean, a lot of the big companies. So I would just call that point out. I know it's been touched on, and Shannon touched on it, but just to reiterate that element of the value of the EMBA program.
Thank you. Justin.
Yeah, hey guys. And like everyone else said, thank you so much for taking time out of your day and chat with us. It's been awesome hearing from everyone. I have a similar question, maybe it's a bit of a follow-up to the question that was just asked, but did you ever find that there was, obviously, going into this program, you have to make it a priority. Did you ever find that you had to deprioritize something else in your life or something else in your career that, did you ever find conflicts with your work at times? For myself, I travel a lot. I go to a lot of conventions and work's pretty crazy 24/7. So I'm kind of curious to understand how you guys manage that.
I think the only commodity you have to trade with is sleep. Other than that, yes, there are opportunity costs. And Justin, I was traveling extensively, and I think I did the first 2 quarters in American Airlines, terminals. And that was just the way it worked. Okay, it's trying to schedule around it and working through it. I think one of the biggest things for me was, what could I do late at night when I was tired? And I needed to read early, and then I could work later. And finding that balance was pretty important, but it is manageable because there is so much time, especially that we just spend on our phones, TikTok, Instagram, whatever useless stuff we're spilling into our heads. You could use a lot of that time for studying. So I think it's probably easier for us now because we have these big blocks of time that are in there that we're kind of just socially entertaining ourselves. It's a fair swap.
I just want to note, Tim didn't mention Snapchat in that time-sucking experience. So we'll talk about that later, Tim. We'll have
I'm
to
being
get
cognizant.
Snapchat account now.
So I'll jump in and just share the value of that mini group of your study groups. It's like having that group of people, like 2 years is a long time in terms of things that are going to happen. Like there are kids that are going to be born, there, life changes. Our mini group, we went through, family members that were ill and people needed to take care of. We had one of our group members that got, deployed overseas during that time. It's about kind of creating that balance and that group, that mini group is really your support system, because, things are not going to stay consistent for 2 years. Like if anything, the last 2 years have really taught us that. But it's about having that support system. And the mini groups have just been absolutely incredible, because sometimes you're going to have a little bit more time and you're going to pull a little bit more weight on that project. And other times you're going to have things that are happening and you're traveling, you're going to have less bandwidth and your team is going to support you a little bit more. And it's all kind of having that balance.
Yeah, I also, early on, before I even started, had a very open conversation with my employer about me participating in the program and, what it would require at a minimum. Fridays, I'm going to be unavailable every other Friday. And there's going to be, a week where I have to travel abroad. And I did the same when I switched employers as well in the interview process. Like once I already kind of had the offer, but I said, oh yeah, by the way, I'm in an executive MBA program and here's why I'm doing this. And here's the value that it will add to you, that I will bring to you as a company. So I think, obviously every situation is a little bit different, but thinking about how you negotiate that conversation early on before you even start, I think is a really useful tactic.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that. I think that if you need any help, any of you kind of thinking about what that value is back to your company, whether it be just to get the time off or, potentially even to ask for sponsorship, that's where, setting up a one-on-one with us and you can really tell us like, oh, here's where I think it's, my company is going to push back. Do you have any other ideas and stuff? We're here to brainstorm with you as well and talk about, because I hear time and time again, I mean, look, Yana got a promotion within, during the program, we hear a lot about that the companies actually, maybe weren't willing to sponsor at first, but then start seeing the return on kind of someone showing up differently. And then I hear many stories of, now suddenly they're considering me for a position that they hadn't. And it's not necessarily because you have the MBA, it's what you're actually showing up and bringing and how you're holding yourself and the kind of ideas and thinking you're bringing to the table.
Follow-up question to what you just mentioned regarding sponsorships. Are there any regulations as far as when you accept sponsorships from companies? So to your point just now, if they were hesitant about contributing in the beginning, but maybe by the second year, they're more likely to, does that matter at all?
No, that's for you to work out. So if you get partial sponsorship, like let's say they're not doing 100%, but they're doing partial, we can either work out, you can work out something where they somehow reimburse you, even though then taxes get kind of involved there. So what they actually can do is even just send a check directly to the Bruin Bill office with your student ID, and that'll just come off as a credit on your bill. So there's definitely ways. And then if anyone is getting 100% sponsorship at some point, we can even set up a direct account with your company so they can pay. And there are some tax benefits up to a certain amount. for your company as well to be able to sponsor. We did a whole study like 2 years ago where we asked all of our alumni and students about, did you get sponsorship beyond what your maybe company, the basic reimbursement your company had? And the number one, a lot of people had to give anonymous feedback because maybe it was done a little bit under the table, because normally the number one thing I heard is don't go through HR. HR is going to say no, because they're just doing the regular reimbursement. But you might be surprised, go to your unit head or, management, and they may be able to find some funding. People want to retain good talent right now too. So might be a good time to talk about it.
Thank you.
So I know we just have 2 minutes left. I want to be conscious of everyone's time. Is there any last question that anybody has? All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone. The prospective students, you were really engaged and asked some great questions. So thank you for your time. Thank you so much, Yana, Tim, and Jason. It was an absolute pleasure seeing you. We'll send a follow-up again with all the ways you can connect with us. We're going to have more, as I said, if you live near campus or you want to come, we'll have more in person, and we'll continue doing virtual ways to connect as well. And then we've got a whole library of on-demand content as well. So everyone, have a wonderful weekend. Be well, be healthy, and we look forward to connecting with you soon.
Thank you all.
Thanks,
Appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.